dare you? Barbaric!
Madam President, today is Tuesday and time for the flag salute.
Mr. De Leon, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning?
Thank you very much, Madam President. It'd be an honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Indivisible, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Which is stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rough day. He rubbed some dirt on it, got back in the game. Now, this is the same guy who, when he was the head of the California Senate, and California is completely dominated by Democrats. I think I've told you there isn't a single Republican elected statewide in the whole state. They don't have majorities in the two chambers of the legislature here in California. They have super majorities. So the Republicans need not even show up for work. Here he is 3 years ago admitting he has family members in the country who are here illegally.
I can tell you half of my family would be eligible for deportation under the executive order.
This is after President Trump came into office, and Trump, tough on the borders. Here he is saying, hey, half my family's here illegally. Really?
I can tell you half of my family would be eligible for deportation under the executive order. Because if they got a false social security card, if they got a false identification, if they got a false driver's license prior to us passing AB 60, if they got a false green card, and anyone who has family members, who are undocumented knows that almost entirely everybody has secured some sort of false identification. That's what you need to survive, to work. They are eligible for massive deportation.
Now, on the issue of citing the Pledge of Allegiance, maybe he should have said, I'll have to circle back with you on that one.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. But I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back with you. I'm happy to circle back with you. I can circle back. I will have to circle back on that one. That's an excellent question. Oh, such an important question. We will circle back with you, and we'll circle back with you. It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back. I'm happy to circle back, but I'll have to circle back with you on it. It's a good question, but we'll circle back with you on this today. We will certainly circle back with you more directly. I hate to disappoint you, but I will have to circle back with you on that as well.
We're going to be talking about the second trial, which will be beginning in a few days. Jake Tapper said Republicans that say that there are constitutional objections to a second trial don't really mean it. And the only reason I'm playing this is, again, as we talked about yesterday with the exchange between Rand Paul and George Clintonopoulos, these guys have long since stopped being journalists. They're advocates.
It's just so strange because, look, I'm not a constitutional scholar. I don't
tell me about it.
Have an opinion on this, but
I do. But by the way, Jake Tapper is a Democrat, used to work for Democrats. His wife used to work for Planned Parenthood.
It's just
so probably not a social conservative, I'm just saying.
It's just so strange because, look, I'm not a constitutional scholar. I don't have an opinion on this, but a lot of people who are voting to not have any consequences for Donald Trump are doing so not because of constitutionality, but because they don't want to hold Donald Trump to any sort of standard. They never have.
You see, you're watching this and you're a 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid. You think this is journalism. Well, the reason that these Republicans are saying this is because they're afraid of Donald Trump. They're afraid of him and they've never stood up to him. What is that? That's news? You have every right to say that, but don't call yourself a newsman, please.
Some of these are the same people who will vote to deny government assistance to somebody because they test positive for drugs.
Some of these are the same people who. What does that even mean? This is disgusting. This is what we're up against. And still the man almost won 40,000 votes in 3 states. He stays in office for another 4 years. That's how close he was. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
You you believe that this is unique in the history of vaccinations?
Well, vaccines been around for thousands of years. They told us before we got the vaccine, they wanted us to watch this PowerPoint about how vaccines are started, why people don't want to take it, all the different misconceptions and myths about vaccines. This particular vaccine, the Moderna one that I took, you don't get the coronavirus. They don't give it to you. It just creates a particular protein that prevents you to get it.
I understand. That's right. So when do you see us ever getting rid of masks?
I don't know. I just wish that one day we don't have to wear a mask. But right now, you have to wear a mask because you can still get the virus with this vaccine, both with the Pfizer and the Moderna, and you can still transfer it to someone else. It just, because it just not makes you very sick. It lessens the effects of the respiratory illnesses that you'd be getting if you didn't have the vaccine. Well, if it lessens
the effects, what do I care?
You can still transfer it to somebody else.
Yeah, so I understand. So what?
The reason why we wear the mask
so
is
that
not
it's
to protect.
Wait. You said that the reason we wear a mask is because you may get the virus. Now it's that you may transmit the virus.
The reason why we wear the mask is so we prevent it from transferring it to somebody else. If we still get the virus.
I didn't want to catch you. The beginning was that you could get it, so you could transfer it. So if people know that they are in an environment where virtually everybody is vaccinated, will they stop wearing masks?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Senator Lindsey Graham last night with Sean Hannity on Fox News.
I had a great meeting with Senator McConnell today. I think every Republican sees the House process as an affront to the presidency and due process. So what's going to happen? If she delivers the articles to us, they'll have to be disposed of under the process of the Senate. If we could get 51 senators to dismiss, it's all over. There's more than a handful of Democrats praying that Joe Biden will get on the phone and call Schumer and say it's over, because they understand this is going to blow up in their face politically. I've never felt better about the Republican Senate conference being united behind the idea that what the House did was wrong in terms of process, and I think we're going to have an overwhelming Republican vote that this second impeachment of Donald Trump is unconstitutional.
Well, that was last night. Today, Chuck Schumer announced that Pelosi has informed him that the article of impeachment against President Trump will be delivered to the Senate on Monday, which paves the way for a trial. It's obviously a developing story. We're going to see what happens next. We're going to see what Republicans are made of. And honestly, I don't know that Rand Paul is incorrect. I think Rand Paul is absolutely right. There's been all this talk about a Patriot Party, a third party. If Republicans are stupid enough to vote to convict a guy who's already out of office of impeachment, of inciting an insurrection, there won't be a Republican Party left.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hi, Larry. I think it's ridiculous that our taxpayers have to pay for another impeachment trial for a president that's not even in office any longer. What's next? Are they going to impeach George Washington because he had slaves, or Lincoln, or anybody else who's not in office any longer? I mean, what is going on in America? This is ridiculous. This is very scary that we have a one-party dictatorship going on. This is just awful.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. It is awful, and it's only getting worse. The Hill reports that a San Francisco board has voted to strip the names of Lincoln and Washington from local schools. Father of our country and the man who freed the slaves, their names are racist. Are the schools even open? You know that company Goya, the CEO, was a big supporter of Trump? Well, the board of directors has voted to censure its CEO because of his public comments backing the former president and his fraud claims. He'll not be permitted to speak to media outlets without the board's approval from now on. The decision will operate as a, quote, full stop to him talking to news outlets, according to a person familiar with the board's decision. And The Hill is also reporting this. Headline, left-leaning group to track which companies hire former Trump aides. Now, I think I've told you Alberto Gonzales, who was the AG for George W. Bush, had a hell of a time getting a job after he left the administration because he authored the so-called torture memo. A left-leaning advocacy group, writes The Hill, has announced it will create a list tracking former Trump administration officials' future endeavors. It's called the Campaign Against Corporate Complicity. It's committed to tracking former administration personnel since the fall of 2020. The group is a collaboration between public interest organizations, Accountable U.S., and American Oversight. While the group, writes The Hill, labels itself as nonpartisan, it does not officially disclose its funding, and has major staffing overlap with Democrat and liberal groups, according to the news outlet. No kidding. Bloomberg says the organization will specifically track several Trump administration officials associated with Trump's immigration policies, including former acting Homeland Security Chad Wolf, former Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, and former Trump advisor Stephen Miller. It will also monitor one-time counselor to the president Kellyanne Conway and former Interior Secretary David Bernhardt. Apparently, Ben Carson did not make the list. The executive director of American Oversight, whose name is Austin Evers, told Bloomberg, quote, as people leave government, we expect them to show up on the doorsteps of corporate America. He said, quote, the people who companies hire reflect their corporate values. If companies hire senior level officials that engaged in Trump's attempts to undermine and violate the rule of law, they are complicit in the cruel, undemocratic, and dangerous policies and rhetoric of his administration, end of quote. That's the President Kyle Herring of Accountable U.S. In a statement, the group said it would specifically apply pressure to CEOs of major media organizations, publisher, and public speaking firms. Quote, government service does not guarantee private employment. In fact, it should not. An American business should not reward the behavior of the Trump administration and the well-oiled revolving door that traditionally spins at moments of transition, end of quote, the organization said in the statement. Now, how long do you think this will take to extend to Trump voters? And why wouldn't it? You want your corporation to reflect the proper values, and you've got employees who voted for Trump? My goodness. What about mid-level staffers? Where's the ACLU when you need them? Now, again, they have a right to do this. They have a right to track people where they go. They have a right to inform people where they are. You going to say something about this on the left? Is this okay with you? Someday there's going to be a Democratic president a lot of people don't like. You want that person's personnel to be tracked, followed every time he or she leaves, and informed? Tell a CEO that this person you're hiring does not reflect your corporate values. Is that okay with you? I guess it was okay with you that Twitter completely shut Trump down permanently. That was okay. Now they're going after people who used to work for Trump. How long do you think it will take before they go after people who used to vote for Trump? Who said anything publicly positive about him? John Eastman is no longer associated with Chapman University because he, in his own capacity as a private lawyer, represented President Trump. Man had tenure. It still didn't save him. He could have gone to court. He could have filed a lawsuit. He could have made a big stink. He chose not to because that's the kind of guy he is. That's the kind of guy Republicans generally are. You okay with this? People on the left listening to me, are you okay with this? A group that's going to track Trump staffers they don't like and make sure that they have a hell of a time getting a job. Who the hell are you to do that? Did they do something illegal? Did they do something unlawful? They have a political point of view that you don't like, therefore they ought not work? Because you believe that borders ought to be secure and not porous, you ought not work? Because you support low taxes and low regulations, and you want conservative judges, and you want Roe v. Wade overturned, you ought not work? Because you work for somebody who felt that way? This is sinister. It is ugly. And are there any statespeople on the left to stand up and say something? Apparently not. Jake Tapper, Republicans citing the Constitution, they don't really mean it. How the hell do you know what they mean? I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Can you imagine the President of the United States feeling an obligation, I guess, to his people to bring up these two things, which I consider essentially fake? I mean, the idea that anybody that you know or I know would agree with white nationalism or domestic terrorism, much less be a part of it, is just outstanding. It is breathtaking to me that he said this in an inaugural speech where he's calling for unity. I just...
No, you're not by yourself. And there's a lot of people that are pointing to the same realities, that it's one thing to have rhetoric that talks about being unified. And here's something else I think we all need to just get over. Unity may on some level be virtuous, but it is not the highest of virtues. And there are virtues that are actually much more valuable from a moral and even civil scale. And one of those is freedom. Take out all of the references to unity in yesterday's speech and replace it with conformity. You have a better understanding of what the left actually means. But I think that there are some things that are far more important than unity. Clarity is one of them. To be clear and to clearly understand what truth is a far higher, greater virtue than unity. I also believe that at the end of the day, conformity is what they're really talking about. I believe that the defense of freedom is a greater virtue than what they're dealing with. So that's kind of where we're at.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
when you have AOC say that she is literally on camera, I am afraid of being shot by my fellow congressmen who are Republicans.
Think how crazy this is. So look, AOC goes on, and she'll call Ted Cruz a white supremacist. Ted Cruz isn't even white, and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? It's one thing you just calling the white people white supremacists. You're also calling the Latino people white supremacists.
Look, if Candace Owens can be a white supremacist, then right?
I know exactly. But this concept where they've used emotions to supersede everything. She knows that she's not afraid that one of her fellow congressmen is going to shoot her. But think how dangerous that language is. And it's very tempting then for us to go in with equally as emotionally charged and over the top language. But that's just all of us going on the road to hell together. So the question really is like, well, what do you do? So what do we do in the face of a group of people who now have power, whose goal is to have power, who are telling us what they're going to do with that power? What do we do as people that don't want to use governmental power? This is the great challenge, I think, of our time for liberty-minded people. It's like, all right, we're live and let live, but if the other guys are trying to come onto our property and do stuff or indoctrinate our children or whatever it might be, then our live and let live has to have some limit.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
You've been unafraid to wear the Make America Great Again hat, the Keep America Great hat. I guess when you win, you could do whatever you want.
That's true. And, I don't have these owners or people telling me what I got to do, or the woke mob, trying to cancel me. We're independent contractors in the UFC. So, my beliefs, my freedoms don't stop there. I get to do whatever I want, say what I want, and I'm not going to be muzzled.
I just wanted to say I don't hear these states complaining anymore about their budget money. It seems like they might have received it through this COVID budget. Nobody knows. But also, I just want to say, as far as this investigation goes about the Capitol building, I'm worried about who's investigating it, because their latest investigations haven't impressed me 1%. Okay, thanks, Larry. I don't trust them.
Tell me about it. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. By the way, Patrick Leahy is going to be the judge presiding over this trial. He is now in the hospital as a, quote, abundance of caution, close quote. We have no idea what's going on with him. He's 80 years old. Maybe the stress of the impending trial. I have no idea. Keep you posted. Now, next hour, we're going to be speaking with Leo Hanian, the economist from UCLA. We're going to talk about Joe Biden's plan to double the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And we're going to take a look at his $1.9 trillion budget and whether or not Leo Hanian feels that these kinds of policies are the kinds of policies that would spur growth. I have a feeling he's not going to be all that impressed, but we'll talk with Professor Ohanian about this next hour, 888-971-SAGE. The San Francisco School Board has voted to strip the names of not just Lincoln and Washington, but also the names are going to be changed. Lowell High, Lowell, don't know what his crime was. Roosevelt Middle, I don't know whether that's named after Teddy Roosevelt or named after FDR. Either way, that name is gone. John Muir, he was a environmentalist, right? I don't know what he did, but he's out. He's making comments about indigenous people. Dianne Feinstein was on the list. And apparently when she was, I think, mayor of San Francisco, she made a decision to replace a Confederate flag that was vandalized in front of City Hall. And that, therefore, made her, it didn't stay very long. The flag didn't stay very long. They ultimately moved it, but she made the decision to put it back after it had been vandalized. And so, therefore, she apparently is, well, she was on the list, but they voted not to remove her name from a school. So she got saved. I guess they felt that was a bridge too far. Mike Lindell has been canceled on Twitter. Here's what he said about cancel culture.
That list is bigger. There's also HEB, the shopping channel, Shop HQ. I mean, they just keep, turning in their POs and saying we don't want My Pillow anymore. I've always backed this great President Donald Trump. I've always had his back since 2016 when I first met him. But when I went back to Minnesota in 2016 to say, hey, I met the candidate Donald Trump, I was attacked by bots and trolls. And I reached out to the media, did a press release, and I was just called a racist and everything you could imagine. And I thought, wow, are these people real? No, they weren't real. They're attack groups and they're bots and trolls. So I've been through this before. Last spring, I spoke out from the Rose Garden and said we should all get in our Bibles and reach out to Jesus, stay in the Word, spend time with our families. We were attacked then. So we're used to this at My Pillow, but this time it's different. And this time, about 17 days ago, when someone put up on the internet actual new machine election fraud, I retweeted it, and they took my Twitter down. Now, when they took it down, this is interesting. They didn't take it down all the way. I just couldn't do anything, and they were running my Twitter like they were me. And then a week ago, they did a Dominion, went on TV and said they were going to go after Mike Lindell. Well, they did. They hired hit groups and bots and trolls, went after all my vendors, all these box stores to cancel me out. This cancer culture. Fake stories coming out to attack my Lindell Recovery Network, which helps addicts across the country. It's just a shame, Tucker, if they can do it to me, believe me, they can do it to anyone out there. But I'm not backing down. We cannot back down out of fear this time. Nobody can. Totally I told these box stores, you guys, these aren't real people. These are trolls and bots. The real people will buy the products and will support you. You can't do this just because they cancel you. Try and cancel culture.
Calling for some common sense on the left, and there is some. The mayor of San Francisco is a black female. Her name is London Breed, and she opposes the renaming of these schools, which, by the way, is going to cost each school about $1 million. Here's what she said, quote, "It's offensive to me as someone who went to our public schools, who loves our public schools, and who knows how those years in the classroom are what lifted me out of poverty and into college. It's offensive to our kids who are staring at screens day after day instead of learning and growing with their classmates and friends," close quote. She said the board should focus on reopening buildings to students instead of dealing with what the building should be called. Common sense. Now, 49% of Americans say their top New Year's resolution is to save money this year. So check that box right now, because when your family switches over to Pure Talk from AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, you could save over $800 a year. That's real money every single month right back in your pocket. And you do not have to sacrifice coverage, because Pure Talk is on the same network as one of those big carriers, but they charge you half. I'm a customer, and I can personally tell you that the service is excellent. But don't just take my word for it. Pure Talk is the top-rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs. And how about this offer? Right now, get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data, all for just $30 a month. And if you go over data usage, they do not charge you for it. So grab your mobile phone, dial pound 250 and say Larry Elder. When you do, you're going to save 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250, say keyword Larry Elder, because Pure Talk is simply smarter wireless. Can't hear anything.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
The number of people in this country who have to hide what they believe is in the many tens of millions. I try not to politicize the happiness hour, but politics impinges terribly, unfortunately. Over the course of the last few years, during the time when life was normal and you could travel normally, and I had lectures just about every week and flew just about every week, people would come over to me in airports. There has not been a time in decades that I have not been approached at an airport by at least one person. And in the last few years, something very ominous has taken place. People will look around before they say anything to me, and then in a hushed voice tell me that they are conservative or supported the president at the time, President Trump. That Americans need to look around before they tell you their political preference is new in American history. So that means, getting back to my theme, that a lot of you hide who you are much of your life, like at work. That is not a happiness-inducing situation, is it? So, in light of that, you need to find kindred spirits.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Senator Tom Cotton, good morning, Senator. Welcome. Good to talk to you. I know you believe a trial of former President Trump is unconstitutional. Is that the majority view of the Republican caucus?
Hugh, I think Senate Republicans are coming around to that view as they think more about it. I think for most Americans, it's just a very common sense position, though. The Democrats want to have a trial to convict and remove from office a man who left office yesterday. And by the time we get around to that trial in a few more days, that's going to be an even stranger proposition. Why are the Democrats spending the Senate's time in an obsessive inquest against a private citizen when we could be focused on what really matters, like getting more vaccines out to Americans or helping Americans get back to work or defending this country from the threats we face abroad? That's just the common sense view of things, Hugh. Now, I think the Constitution really couldn't be much plainer. It says that the President, the Vice President, and civil officers of the United States shall be subject to impeachment, conviction, and removal from office. Donald Trump is none of those things now. And to put a
Hi, Larry. I know you know this. I got a question. Has there ever been a time in history, I'm sure there has, where 80% of the government, most of the media, and half the population is against a certain group of people, and they want to shut you up, and they hate you, and they want to come after you, and they want to silence you, and et cetera? It seems really bad for us conservatives, and I don't know why they hate us to begin with. I'm confused with that. I don't think this is going to end well. Thank you, Larry. Love the show. Can you explain all this, please? Thank you.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Certainly, I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime, where, as you pointed out, you're talking about a substantial number of people in this country absolutely loathe a substantial number of other people in the country. I've never seen this. During the Vietnam War, there were fathers who didn't talk to sons and that sort of thing. If you watch All in the Family, you get some sense of that. But it wasn't this cancel thing. If you work for Trump, you shouldn't work. And notice the caller said, I don't know why they hate us. And you see the sincerity in his voice. I don't know why they hate us. And what he's saying is, I'm just trying to make things better. I just want people to realize their potential. I just want prosperity. And I have a different point of view as to how to attain those things than you do, and therefore I should be canceled. I'm a bad guy. I'm evil. I'm a Nazi. I'm a fascist. I can't be on your platform. I can't be employed. I've never seen this before. This is guy that New York Times, he approves the op-ed piece written by a respected senator, not a flamethrower, Tom Cotton of Oklahoma, who says if these protests keep going so like this, we may have to use the National Guard. That's all he said. Fast forward on January 6th, the Democrats, where's the National Guard? Where's the National Guard? Anyway, the editor who approved the op-ed piece had to leave the paper because so many staffers were upset. Same thing right now is going on at Politico. You hear about this with Ben Shapiro? Ben Shapiro was a guest columnist, wrote a column. Ben Shapiro wrote a column like Ben Shapiro writes a column. And the staffers on Politico were upset that they offered him a guest op-ed column. And Politico said, well, the reason we're doing this is because we want to hear from other opinions. But staffers were ticked. And this goes back to what Dean Baquet said. Remember that? The executive editor of the New York Times, he's still there. He's their first, I believe, and their only black executive editor. Very powerful man. And we talked about this yesterday. He hired a columnist named Bret Stephens, a Trump hater. The kind of column that the New York Times, the Washington Post hires that they say are Republicans. You know, the kinds of Republicans that attack people like Donald Trump. That's the kind of Republican they hire, so they can say that they're fair and balanced. So he hires Bret Stephens. His first column is a column about his skepticism about climate change alarmism. Not that he doesn't think climate is changing, just doesn't believe that the alarmism is warranted. That's all he said. And Dean Baquet said people were furious. People canceled their subscription. Staffers were upset. And that's when he said he had...
We've long said this about the right, but I think the left, I'm a journalist, but the left as a rule does not want to hear thoughtful disagreement.
Now that's not Sean Hannity saying that. That's not Fox saying that. That's not me saying it. This is the executive editor of the New York Times admitting that he called himself, because he knows he's on the left, we don't want to hear thoughtful disagreement. What the hell is that?
We're at a moment in the country right now, which I think, the left should do some soul searching too, right? We don't want to hear anything that we've long said this about the right, but I think the left, I'm a journalist, but the left as a rule does not want to hear thoughtful disagreement.
It's just stunning. I'll tell you something else is stunning. The double standard. It's not even a double standard. It's a quadruple standard. You have somebody like Spike Lee.
President Agent Orange will go down in history with the likes of Hitler.
Okay, this is a man who made a film called what was the name of the film, where he played, there was a character, he had a white girlfriend, Jungle Fever, thank you. The time the movie came out, Spike Lee publicly said he disliked interracial couples. When he sees them on the streets, he gives them visual daggers to make them feel uncomfortable. Now, aside from David Duke, who else have you heard say something like that? He was on Good Morning America when Diane Sawyer hosted it, and referred to Trent Lott as, quote, a straight-up member of the Klan, close quote, because Trent Lott dared to praise Strom Thurmond on his 100th birthday. Strom Thurmond ran for president in 1948 on the Dixiecrat Party. And Thurmond said something like, and then Trent Lott said something like, well, it's too bad you didn't win, the country would have been better, or some nonsense like that. Trying to flatter some old guy on his birthday. And for that reason, Spike Lee goes on Good Morning America and says Trent Lott is, quote, a straight-up member of the Klan, close quote. Any evidence, any proof, This is a guy who said that Charlton Heston, then the president of the NRA, should be taken out and shot with a .44 caliber bulldog. Yeah, he said that. He also speculated openly that George W. Bush's government had the levees blown up intentionally in New Orleans to flood the black areas to make the state less black, and so that white people could swoop in and get that desirable real estate, I guess. My point is, never been canceled. He even criticized white people for moving into Harlem. Called it bogarting. I kind of thought that people should be able to live wherever they want to live, and that we outlawed housing discrimination, but apparently not. As far as Spike Lee was concerned, White people ought not be moving into Harlem. Now, honestly, I'm just saying, the man has a right to say this stuff. I'm just saying, nobody says anything. Nobody's got a problem with it. I give interracials a look when they walk down the street. I give them visual daggers to make them feel uncomfortable. But Donald Trump has to spend 4 years renouncing David Duke. Now, the doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% each are 100% drug-free ingredients, each of which attacks pain from a different metabolic pathway. If you have back, shoulder, neck, foot, hip, knee pain from exercise or just getting older, consider ordering the 3-week Quick Start, discounted to only $19.95. Give your body what it needs to heal itself. Just go to relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com, or call 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Senator Lindsey Graham last night with Sean Hannity on Fox News.
I had a great meeting with Senator McConnell today. I think every Republican sees the House process as an affront to the presidency and due process. So what's going to happen? If she delivers the articles to us, they'll have to be disposed of under the process of the Senate. If we could get 51 senators to dismiss, it's all over. There's more than a handful of Democrats praying that Joe Biden will get on the phone and call Schumer and say it's over, because they understand this is going to blow up in their face politically. I've never felt better about the Republican Senate conference being united behind the idea that what the House did was wrong in terms of process, and I think we're going to have an overwhelming Republican vote that this second impeachment of Donald Trump is unconstitutional.
Well, that was last night. Today, Chuck Schumer announced that Pelosi has informed him that the article of impeachment against President Trump will be delivered to the Senate on Monday, which paves the way for a trial. It's obviously a developing story. We're going to see what happens next. We're going to see what Republicans are made of. And honestly, I don't know that Rand Paul is incorrect. I think Rand Paul is absolutely right. There's been all this talk about a Patriot Party, a third party. If Republicans are stupid enough to vote to convict a guy who's already out of office of impeachment, of inciting an insurrection, there won't be a Republican Party left.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hi, Larry. This is Alex from Brooklyn, New York, and I have a question for you. Do you think that this impeachment trial in the Senate, are the Democrats going to be fair to President Trump and give him a chance to respond to the accusations that he lied to the American people and that's how he incited violence? Because if they do, they're in trouble, because then they're going to have to dispute all the evidence a voter for the President Trump is going to present over there, and they never listened to the evidence, never mind disputed it. So is this just a way to make the impeachment look more real and official by calling a trial? Or is this going to be a fair trial where President Trump is going to be able to respond to the accusations made against him? Thank you. Have a great night.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Well, the likelihood is that the president does not want to respond to the charges. He thinks that they're bogus charges. He feels insulted that he's even facing this second trial. I think he ought to feel insulted he's facing this second trial. So it's never going to come to that. There are only about 4 or 5 Republicans that say they're going to vote for conviction. So the thing is not going to happen. So what's the point? The point is they want to let the American people know what a really, really, really bad guy Donald Trump was. So it doesn't matter if there's a conviction. They just want a whole lot of negative, bad, nasty stuff said about Donald Trump to let everybody know this guy ought never to come back. Now, the conviction would then follow a determination on whether or not he would be ineligible to run for office again, so he's not going to be convicted, so he can run again. And that's what their real fear is. Now, 2021 is already off to a pretty disturbing start for conservatives. We've seen Twitter unilaterally shut down President Trump's account, the conservative platform Parler, which I joined. And I think last time I checked, I had about 60,000 followers. And then it went all of a sudden down. And then now I couldn't post anything. And then I found out it was booted off the App Store by Apple. And Big Tech, muzzling free speech at a speed nobody could have predicted. Nobody except maybe biologist and evolutionary theorist Brett Weinstein, who is in the film No Safe Spaces. And he issued the following warning.
If this is allowed to continue, it is going to work its way into the entire apparatus of government, journalism, maybe most seriously into the tech sector, which has become the governance apparatus for the new public square. YouTube and Google, Facebook and Twitter dictate whose voices can be heard. And if those entities start trying to engineer the conversation to adhere to the rules laid out with these phony Trojan horse terms, disaster will be the result.
You need to see the full movie, No Safe Spaces. Just go to salemnow.com or download your copy of No Safe Spaces or order the DVD. Fast, easy to do. Your family needs to see this important film right now. salemnow.com and get your copy of No Safe Spaces. Be sure and use promo code Larry. I'm Larry Elder. Don't forget, Leo Haney, an economist. Inflation, $15 minimum wage, $1.9 trillion budget, all coming up next.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
You've been unafraid to wear the Make America Great Again hat, the Keep America Great hat. I guess when you win, you could do whatever you want.
That's true. And, I don't have these owners or people telling me what I got to do, or the woke mob, trying to cancel me. We're independent contractors in the UFC. So, my beliefs, my freedoms don't stop there. I get to do whatever I want, say what I want, and I'm not going to be muzzled.
Yeah, what I love is seeing on ESPN, and they have to air your post-fight interview. You're wearing that beautiful Keep America Great hat. It's terrific. What's been the response from other fighters from that? Do some not like it? Some ask you to stop?
Some people, they get jealous, they want to follow that trend. They see that, the numbers that it's doing, and, that call with the president on fight night, I had 10 million viewers on the ESPN page, so they can't deny me. I'm undeniable. Yeah. That's the highest rated and numbers the show's ever done with that call. So, I think a lot of people, they want to follow in those steps, but they don't want to receive the backlash. There's a lot of negative that comes with being a Trump supporter or a Republican, you know. It's not the cool thing.
I don't think Antifa is going to mess with you anytime soon, though.
I hope so, man. I was telling President, send me out there, man. Put me in the middle of the Antifa, man. Let me go.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
What do we make of Joe Biden occupying the White House? Because I have a lot of thoughts on it. Well, my main question is, what are your thoughts of where we are now?
We are in the midst of a new administration that is going to radically change every single piece of government that they touch. We have seen in the first 24 hours the signing of some 17 executive orders that have stopped the border wall construction. They have renewed visa permits coming from countries where people cannot be vetted, like Syria and Iran and Yemen. They have engaged our enemies in a completely different way. I mean, by that, China and Iran and Russia. They have already spent tax dollars that you and I have paid to help fund abortions that have already happened in other countries outside of our borders now. These are all things that they came in on day one, signed 17 different pieces of paper, and are already transforming American policy in all of these different areas into a very different direction.
But this is obviously what America wanted, is it not?
That's what we're told. That's what we have evidently walked through the process to approve of. And the question now becomes, what do Americans think about what they've gotten? And are they going to have buyer's remorse? If people thought that the unity that we heard so much about yesterday was going to be anything that resembled actual unity, they were mistaken.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
You believe that this is unique in the history of vaccinations?
Well, vaccines been around for thousands of years. They told us before we got the vaccine, they wanted us to watch this PowerPoint about how vaccines are started, why people don't want to take it, all the different misconceptions and myths about vaccines. This particular vaccine, the Moderna one that I took, you don't get the coronavirus. They don't give it to you. It just creates a particular protein that prevents you to get it.
I understand. That's right. So when do you see us ever getting rid of masks?
I don't know. I just wish that one day we don't have to wear a mask. But right now, you have to wear a mask because you can still get the virus with this vaccine, both with the Pfizer and the Moderna, and you can still transfer it to someone else. It just, because it just not makes you very sick. It lessens the effects of the respiratory illnesses that you'd be getting if you didn't have the vaccine.
Well, if it lessens the effects, what do I care? Why should,
well, you can still transfer it to somebody else.
Yeah, so I understand. So what?
The reason why we wear the mask
so
is
that
not
it's
to
not.
protect.
Wait. You said that the reason we wear a mask is because you may get the virus. Now it's that you may transmit the virus.
The reason why we wear the mask is so we prevent it from transferring it to somebody else. If we
okay.
you
All
still
right.
get the virus.
No, I didn't want to catch you. The beginning was that you could get it, so you could transfer it. So if people know that they are in an environment where virtually everybody is vaccinated, will they stop wearing masks?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Senator Lindsey Graham last night with Sean Hannity on Fox News.
I had a great meeting with Senator McConnell today. I think every Republican sees the House process as an affront to the presidency and due process. So what's going to happen? If she delivers the articles to us, they'll have to be disposed of under the process of the Senate. If we could get 51 senators to dismiss, it's all over. There's more than a handful of Democrats praying that Joe Biden will get on the phone and call Schumer and say it's over, because they understand this is going to blow up in their face politically. I've never felt better about the Republican Senate conference being united behind the idea that what the House did was wrong in terms of process, and I think we're going to have an overwhelming Republican vote that this second impeachment of Donald Trump is unconstitutional.
Well, that was last night. Today, Chuck Schumer announced that Pelosi has informed him that the article of impeachment against President Trump will be delivered to the Senate on Monday, which paves the way for a trial. It's obviously a developing story. We're going to see what happens next. We're going to see what Republicans are made of. And honestly, I don't know that Rand Paul is incorrect. I think Rand Paul is absolutely right. There's been all this talk about a Patriot Party, a third party. If Republicans are stupid enough to vote to convict a guy who's already out of office of impeachment, of inciting an insurrection, there won't be a Republican Party left.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. In a few minutes, we'll be talking with economics professor from UCLA, Lee Ohanian, about the $1.9 trillion proposed Joe Biden plan to deal with coronavirus and all sorts of other things liberals want to do. About Biden's plan to double the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And about inflation. I believe it's already here. It's being understated. He believes it's already here, being understated. And now more and more money is being printed. So we're going to be talking about what we can do to protect ourselves because of all of this. Now, did you watch any of the presentation that Susan Rice made yesterday? She talked about all the things they're going to do to tackle racism and make sure we've got equity. Don't you love the word equity? Fairness.
The president will also sign an executive order reinvigorating the commitment of all federal agencies to engage in regular, robust, and meaningful consultation with tribal governments.
Okay. She's also talking about directing all federal agencies to double down and make sure that we're being fair. Every agency should focus on marginalized communities.
We've hit the ground running to embed equity throughout the administration. On day one, the president signed an executive order directing an unprecedented whole-of-government initiative to embed racial equity across federal policies, programs, and institutions.
Peter Kirsanow wrote a piece called The Systemic Racism Canard. Wrote it last year in the National Review. Let me just read you part of it. The allegation of pervasive systemic racism, as that term is used by politicians, media, academics, and woke mobs, is not merely false, it is a lie. Almost everyone knows it, but few are willing to say it for fear of being labeled racist, getting canceled, and or becoming unemployed. So the lie grows, persists, metastasizes. In reality, a massive multi-billion-dollar apparatus exists to identify and eliminate systemic, structural, institutional, and individual discrimination. That apparatus has existed for more than a half a century and continues to expand. It consists of, among other things, the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Education, the Equal Opportunity Commission, the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, the FBI, state civil rights commissions, local human rights commissions, state attorneys general, and tens of thousands of investigators, enforcement and compliance officers, local prosecutors, and private attorneys who enforce a sprawling framework of civil rights and equal opportunity laws. These laws include, but are not limited to, Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Sections 1981, 1982, and 1983 of the Civil Rights Acts of 1886 and 1887, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, the Fair Housing Act, the Voting Rights Act, and thousands of state and local equal opportunity and anti-discrimination laws. This mammoth regime doesn't even include the tens of thousands of human resource officers and diversity and inclusion personnel who guard against systemic structural racism within their own respective institutions. He says this, indeed, in large part because of this massive framework, there is considerable systemic racism, but going in the direction opposite what is conventionally claimed. For more than a half a century, college admissions officers have discriminated against whites in favor of blacks. More recently, this discrimination has expanded in favor of Hispanics to disfavor Asians. The discrimination is pervasive and profound, he writes. At some schools, black applicants are up to 500 times more likely to be admitted than similarly situated white competitors. A similar dynamic prevails in the workplace. Corporations and law firms compete furiously to get and retain black and Hispanic employees whose objective qualifications are lower than those of whites and Asians. Employers go through exhaustive gymnastics to avoid disciplining or discharging underperforming minority employees. The claim that blacks are disproportionately killed by cops is also false. Blacks are actually underrepresented in police shooting based upon black overrepresentation in crime. For example, while blacks are twice as likely as whites to be shot by cops, blacks are nearly 7 times more likely than whites to commit murder. It goes on and on and on and on. And she does this whole presentation based upon this premise, which is absolutely, totally bogus.
His economic plans make historic investments in underserved communities and put equity at the heart of our recovery. His ambitious agenda builds on a legacy of Americans forging opportunity out of crisis. These aren't feel-good policies. The evidence is clear. Investing in equity is good for economic growth.
Investing in equity is good for economic growth. What the hell does that even mean? It sure sounded wonderful. She can sling it. Mayor Pete can sling it. Obama can sling it. Investing in equity. You remember when the Dodgers won the World Series and the black broadcaster named Harold Michael asked Mookie Betts, the Dodger star, when did you first realize you were the only African American in the World Series? And what was his response? Just now. More than that, Carmichael prefaced the question with, everybody's talking about the fact that you're the only African American in the World Series. Harold Reynolds. And everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. Nobody talked to Mookie Betts about it. By the way, Mookie Betts' boss, the manager, black. So I guess that doesn't count. So you have a black broadcaster asking a black player who has a black manager why there aren't more African Americans in the league. And I chose the word African American because there are a lot of blacks. They're just not from here. And what Betts essentially was saying is, I didn't realize it was an issue. I didn't realize it was a problem. I'm just trying to win the World Series over here. No one's talking about it to me. And then that star poker player named Phil Ivey, interview on 60 Minutes by a black correspondent. Has racism affected your career as a poker player? Because no, poker's about green. You see, when there isn't a supply of racism, you have to find new sources. That's why these liberals sit around and say things like, wow, look at this Capitol riot. I wonder what would have happened had these protesters been largely black. Now, they weren't largely black, but let's speculate what would have happened if they were, because that advances our agenda, and the agenda is to convince much of the country that America remains systemically racist, because that's the card they play every election time to get 13% of the population to vote 95% for one party. And as Chris Matthews pointed out, mostly this is for white liberals, because most white liberals would never, ever vote for somebody if they thought they were racist. So make the other side look racist. And that also will ensure the white liberal vote as well. And people like Larry Elder, well, they're the enemy. They're the bad guy. That's how clever these guys are. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
You know, I love the free market. Let Rumble do what it's doing. Let Parler find a bloody server. Don't go back to somebody who can just flick a switch. You're creating locals. But I don't want us to end up in conservative ghettos. That's why I love being on Twitter, because ridicule and humor is a massive tool that we can use against crazy people who think you're a racist because of your skin color. What are you expecting in the weeks and months to come? When AOC talks about blacklists, when you see Katie Couric talk about the need to deprogram or re-educate people, how concerned are you that sooner or later we're just going to be in our little ghettos, Dave?
Well, look, it's legit. You know, CNN did a piece this weekend, or was it just 2 or 3 days ago, sorry, about with this Facebook representative saying that, you know, they should basically take Fox News and the rest of them off the air. This is a real problem. And again, a bunch of us, it's like, I accept that CNN exists. I believe it's a propaganda network that is part of the Democratic Party at this point.
But you don't want to shut it down.
I'm not shutting it down. I can make fun of them all the time. These are ridiculous partisan activists. I mean, here, work with me here, Gorka, on this one. You think Jake Tapper is a Democrat? You think Wolf Blitzer is a Democrat? You think Don Lemon's a Democrat? You think Jim Acosta is a Democrat? You think Brian Stelter is a Democrat? We can keep going with this. You think
they
Chris
all work for Democrat congressmen. I mean, come on.
Right. But the point is, I'm not telling you that they should be shut down. I'm not trying to get their license yanked off. So I think your point is right. We need to fight to stay on those platforms, of course, and fight where the people are to get the new people. But I think we also have to find our own places that we are going to be protected. That's exactly why I started locals.com.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
The thing I'm super curious about, fight day. What does your day look like? That day must be the longest day of the year.
It feels like, honestly, like a minute is like 2
Forever.
days.
You're like, come on, let's get this over with, right?
Literally.
Do you sleep well the night before?
Nah. Yeah, usually I'm not sleeping, you know.
You're in your hotel room going through.
Yeah. And you just got done doing like the weight cut. So, you know, you just lost 20 pounds and you're completely depleted. You took all the salts out of your body. You're dehydrated because you're pretty much water loading. And then you take all the water and the weight off you and you're just completely dehydrated.
And you weigh in the day before the fight.
You do weigh in the day before the fight. So you got 24 hours to rehydrate and then you fight. So like that whole process is like you're rehydrating, you're trying to put the right nutrients in, but you can't put them in too quick because if you put them in too quick, your stomach and your system's not going to take it and you're going to throw up.
So do you have a nutritionist that comes with you that helps monitor all that?
Yeah, I have a nutritionist. So
it's fascinating. So it's not just being able to psychologically prepare. You have to, because you're just cutting. You got to make the weight.
Yeah.
And if you don't, that's just, you know, you're done. There's no fight. Right?
Well, there's a fight, but then you have to give up 30% of your purse. So if you're fighting for $1 million, you got to give up $300,000.
Have you ever not made the weight?
Never. I'm a true professional. I'm a businessman. You know, when I sign a contract, I'm a man of my word. You know, I'm going to show up and I'm going to make weight and I'm going to handle my business like a businessman.
Wow. And so then the day of the fight, what time do you wake up? What does that look like? What do you do? Do you watch TV? Do you just say like, let's get this day over with as quickly as possible?
Usually when I wake up, I'll have like a bunch of carbs, like some pancakes, because, you know, I've been depleting myself low carbs for a couple weeks. So I'll have some pancakes, you know, I'll have some eggs, some turkey sausage, some healthy stuff. And then it's just visualizing, watching a little bit of tapes to see, you know, what areas a guy's good in and to see what his
Larry, always enjoyed the show. My name is Basil from Beverly Hills in Los Angeles. Great sense of humor. It gives me hope for the sane people to advance the narrative on the avalanche of lies that we've been dealt with. Wanted to know if you agree, a split screen when Kamala Harris is on the Stephen Colbert show saying that the riots will not stop. I think it's very effective to do a split screen, to have Kamala Harris and Stephen Colbert in a bubble, in the split screen of cars burning, businesses burning, riots, church burning in Washington, D.C. I think the split screen is very effective because we're a split society. I think a split screen can bring us back together. Love the show, Larry.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, duly noted. Split screens and montages are very, very effective. Here's one that Hannity played last night about many stories the news media got dead wrong, but nobody asked them to be canceled.
Is this president trying to impersonate Hugo Chavez, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Vladimir Putin?
He said today, America first. It was not just the racial, the Hitlerian background to it.
He's not of sound mind. That's somebody that clinically you look at and say, there's something wrong there.
Trump needs to be medicated and hospitalized.
Donald Trump, again, being a schmuck.
At times profane, angry, rambling response.
It was full of revenge. It was mean-spirited. It was poisonous.
His mind is dark. This is somebody in deep psychological distress right now.
He's almost leaving town like an autocrat, ousted from power, heading off into exile.
Well, I know somebody might have a thing or two to say about all of this. Professor Leo Hanian teaches economics at UCLA. He's also a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. He now joins us. Professor, thank you so much for taking the time, as always.
Larry, it's good to join you.
Well, what's your mood like, Professor, these days, now that Professor Joe Biden is in office and is proposing a $1.9 trillion package? What's your mood? What's your feeling?
My mood is I need to save more for my grandchildren to pay off the debt we're running up right now for not any particularly good reason.
1.9 trillion. These numbers now are just roll off the tongue, don't they?
They just roll off the tongue, and it's like we're going down to the 5 and dime store and buying a couple of bottles of water. I've never seen anything like this. Just the lack of fiscal responsibility and the lack of economic sense and the lack of justification. It's simply, hey, we got a checkbook, we're going to write some checks, and why not? The unemployment rate is currently 6.7%. That's lower than the average unemployment rate during the Obama administration. That's not to say that there aren't people out there hurting because of the pandemic and because of the way the pandemic has been handled in many states, but there's just simply no economic justification for writing these $2,000 checks that will go to most households in the country, and most of those households are currently not being directly impacted by COVID. There simply is just no economic reason for this type of program.
My guest is economics professor from UCLA, Leo Hanian. Professor, when Hillary was running against Trump, I said neither one of them is saying anything at all about debt and deficit. No matter who gets in, the debt and deficit are going to grow. Obviously, Democrats are bigger spendthrifts. But my point, Professor, is both sides have blood on their hands regarding the debt and the deficit being run up.
Yes, absolutely. The idea of fiscal responsibility has disappeared from Washington, really, no matter who the party is. And now we're really doing this, with whipped cream and a cherry on top. Trump ran up $4 trillion in terms of trying to manage the pandemic, and now that the vaccine is here, and if the public sector, this is a big if, but if the public sector was able to manage its distribution efficiently, I think we would be out of the worst of this very, very soon. So, again, the idea that we need a big federal stimulus, writing a lot of checks, most of which will go to people who will simply deposit it right in the bank. And, much of the same criticism can be pointed at Trump's Paycheck Protection Program. I mean, I know many businesses that were flat out operating at full capacity that were paid millions of dollars, which did not save jobs, it did not create jobs, but they were depositing the bank accounts of businesses. The real trouble that government runs into, and again, whether it's Republican or Democrat, is a crisis comes along, and then there's an idea that you can simply just write a lot of checks, throw those, and see what sticks to the wall. And 19 out of 20 pieces of spaghetti don't stick to the wall, but nevertheless, they do run up the debt. So we are really in, I think, a very, very difficult situation, and one that's going to impact future generations substantially.
My guest again is economics professor Leo Hanian from UCLA. Professor, one of my mentors, of course, is Thomas Sowell. And he always told me, whenever there's a new scheme, ask yourself 3 questions. How much is it going to cost? Who's going to pay? And will it, in fact, achieve the objectives intended? Usually, he says, you put that 3-part analysis, almost everything falls apart.
Yeah, it really does. It really, I can think of no better example than this. And then we combine that with Biden's interest in raising the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour, that would hit all of the United States equally. Well, I took a look at some numbers, and in Mississippi, the median wage earners hourly wage is under $15 per hour. That's for the median person. So half of people working in Mississippi are earning less than $15 per hour. So there's another bad policy associated with that. Biden also wants to provide free college education. Well, there's no such thing as anything that's free. It simply just means that someone else is going to pay for it. And what I can tell you as a college professor for over 25 years, we have a hard enough time trying to get people through college right now with the right motivation, the right incentives. And when you make it free, it's very easy to turn your back on that without saying, hey, I'm really paying for this, I'm going to make this count. So there's a lot of dollars being spent out of Washington, and your insight as to where this is going, and is it going to really help the country? You're spot on with that. We're burning a lot of dollar bills right now, and I wish more people could understand that.
Professor, 45 seconds left, and again, thank you so much for taking the time. I wanted your opinion about Janet Yellen becoming the Secretary of Treasury. How do you feel about that?
Well, among Biden's top 7 economic advisors, and I'm going to put her on that list of the top 7, of those 7, I've only heard of 2 of them. Yellen and Cecilia Rouse, who will be the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. Yellen is really about the best person he has appointed. I have differences with her on some aspects of economic policy, but
10 seconds.
She's much better than many of the people he is listening to who don't even have professional economics training among those top 7.
Well, thank goodness he didn't appoint Maxine Waters. Professor, thank you for taking the time.
Larry, it's always a pleasure. Right. Thank you.
God bless.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
You've been unafraid to wear the Make America Great Again hat, the Keep America Great hat. I guess when you win, you could do whatever you want.
That's true. And, I don't have these owners or people telling me what I got to do, or the woke mob, trying to cancel me. We're independent contractors in the UFC. So, my beliefs, my freedoms don't stop there. I get to do whatever I want, say what I want, and I'm not going to be muzzled.
Yeah, what I love is seeing on ESPN, and they have to air your post-fight interview. You're wearing that beautiful Keep America Great hat. It's terrific. What's been the response from other fighters from that? Do some not like it? Some ask you to stop?
Some people, they get jealous. They want to follow that trend. They see that, the numbers that it's doing, and that call with the president on fight night, I had 10 million viewers on the ESPN page, so they can't deny me. I'm undeniable. Yeah. That's the highest rated and numbers the show's ever done with that call. So, I think a lot of people, they want to follow in those steps, but they don't want to receive the backlash. There's a lot of negative that comes with being a Trump supporter or a Republican,
Yeah. I just don't